Hold on one second. I got a my camera decided to show some features there. But how's everyone doing tonight? Welcome back to Spindle TV, training classes and everything. We've got, let me make sure everybody can hear me. My volume's up and all that good stuff. We got JR joining us live tonight. JR, how you doing this evening?
Doing good. Doing good.
Awesome.
Hope everyone else is.
Yeah, I hope everybody else is well too. Now, I haven't been consistent with classes because we've been on the road, or I've been on the road. I say we as the royal we, but I've been on the road doing training classes and everything. And then the last like 10 days or so, Cox, my internet provider, has had a big major outage across this whole area. And we weren't putting out any kind of upload speeds or anything that I couldn't upload any video. So literally, no joke, they just fixed it at 6:48 p.m. today. They finally got the service. We got the notification in the text messages that came saying that the service was restored today. And I was like, oh, God, I'm talking about, last minute. But I didn't care if we didn't have service or not. I was going to do my best to cripple along and stream, but we should be fine coming through. So that's great. But I'm glad everybody has joined me tonight. And something new for everyone, in the link in the chat, there's a link to a Dropbox folder. And inside that Dropbox folder are the class files for this evening. And as I go through and create the, change the files and things, I will be saving those changes to the Dropbox folder that you can download and everything. Now, there are two folders that you're going to have access to. One is 11.554 and the other is V12. So depending on what version of the software you're in, I have the files available for you to download from there. And if you don't have any of the versions, 11.554 or 12, there are DXF and SVG files that you can open up in your software. You can create a job. I'll tell you the job setup and everything. You can open up right up in your software. You can import those files in, and you can just work with us from scratch right through there and everything. So big shout out to Chad Jones, Rod Wallin, Roger S., David Heineke, Keith Kessler, JR, and let me make sure. Let's see who else I am. Let's see who else I am missing. And I'm looking over here because I've got a different computer set up. I'll be fixing that later. But and Gene Kilmer, Chad Jones and Gene Kilmer. So shout out to you all. Thanks for popping in and hanging out with us tonight. Now, so that was just a lot of fast talking to kind of get through so we can move along. But I really do hope you're all doing well, and I really hope there's no hiccups in the stream tonight. If there are, please let me know. I've got the chat open here to my right so I can see everything and what you guys are saying or asking me. If you have questions, throw a question mark in front. But let me know if you're experiencing any issues, and I'll see if it's coming from me or not. All right. So, JR, it's been a while. You ready to get going here?
Yes, I am.
All right, bud. Well, listen, it's good seeing you. Thanks for joining me tonight. We will do our best to make it through this. Let me switch over to the proper camera. We're going to be on camera 2. And let me snag myself down in the corner here. Beautiful. And let me adjust this ever so slightly that way. Awesome. Awesome. All right. And then I'm going to go large here. One of these days I'll get the streamer going where we can share the screen better and have JR with us at the same time. Where I'm still using a dual system for tonight until I'm 100% sure that Cox has got their act together. And then I'm just going to eventually end up switching to just a single system and everything. So that way JR could be on the screen with us the whole night. But he's hiding in the background, but he's still there and can hear everything I'm saying about him. So let's talk nice. All right. So what you're seeing on the screen I've been wanting to do a project like this for some time because I'm a big pool player. My family growing up, like literally my whole life, owned taverns and pool halls and things like that. And I grew up on a pool table, and I've learned from some of the best around, and I've played some of the best around, and I've hustled some of the not so good. So I don't want to, no bragging about hustling and taking people's money, but it used to be when I was a child, that was how I made cash, right? So I love pool, and I've always wanted to, one of my big dreams is to make a pool table. So this is not a pool table. This is a pool table sign for the wall, for a playroom, a game room, a family room, a she shed or man cave, whatever you want to call it. We're going to be making a sign, and this sign, the vectors that you see on the screen, could be V carved. We'll talk a little bit about that. But tonight we're actually going to take these vectors and we're going to build components so that those components, those individual pieces, turn into one composite model, kind of a three-dimensional model of this wall art, if you will. But as I was doing this project and kind of laying things out and stuff like that, I came across some really decent plans for an actual pool table. Now, right now, I don't have room for a pool table, anywhere right now, but I do have an area where I could make a room. I just have to close in some walls and stuff like that. But one day I might have that opportunity to build a man cave, and I would love to be able to build even if I had to put it in storage for the time being, I'd love to it's kind of a goal project of mine, is to build a beautiful kind of, custom billiard table, and it could be just simple, basic, it doesn't have to be like all ornate and all that stuff, but I would like some ornate features, So that's going to be something that we might have an opportunity to look forward to down the road. Now, speaking of down the road, let's talk about this coming Wednesday real quick. I shared to you, ladies and gentlemen, a kind of a fourth axis rotary project, a twisted leg, on Facebook and on YouTube. I shared a post in the community tab asking if anyone would be interested in kind of learning, how to make a project like that on the fourth axis. A lot of people thought it would be interesting, and then there was a few people that it's not high on their bucket list kind of thing. And also, we're going to do some modeling tonight. We're going to build this project, but next week, we're going to be working on a rotary project. It will be that project and some other things, but we're going to be working on a rotary type design. So join us for that. Be sure, even though you might not have a fourth axis or something, it's good information, good learning, and hopefully you join us for that. But tonight, we're going to try to get through this in a decent amount of time if I shut up, stop talking, and start working. But just know that there may be a part 2 to this class. It's not going to be next week. Next week, I've already got it set in my head for that rotary job. But we might take this same project the following week or something and do a vector carve of it. What vectors that are currently on the screen here, what need to be changed in order to do a proper V carve. How were the vectors, created and things, and kind of go from, a scratch kind of process and stuff like that. So I think that would be a good learning class as well too. And we'll go from there. All right. Enough talk. So let's see what we got here. Thanks, JR. I appreciate that. Dragon legs and the face in the corner would be cool. Absolutely, Brooks, for sure. I mean, there's definitely some room for some really, really cool stuff, especially on the underside, like in an actual real table project, the legs and the frame, the body of the table. Oh man. I'd like to, price some pool table slate and things like that and see what I can get my hands on. And a lot of times, believe it or not, for those of you that are not interested at all, you're still going to hear the story. In some places, old places that might have closed down, or they bought new tables and they have old tables and things, a lot of times they are getting rid of these old pool tables for pennies on the dollar. And I could absolutely see myself getting my hands on a used pool table that the slate is still really good, tearing it down and gutting it, and just for the slate and any other things that might be useful and stuff. But that is everything else, piece of cake. The felt, the frame, the body, the legs, all that can be made. I can make all of that. The slate, that's going to be the most expensive, I feel. I might be wrong. And the most difficult to obtain. But like I said, there's a lot of places that get rid of old pool tables, and whether you pay for them or they're giving them away, just to get them out of there. And I might be able to come across something like that. And if I do, better believe there's a pool table in the future. All right, so let's take a look at what we have here. And I've tried now. I'm trying to start off on a good foot with this class. In this class, we have all of the vectors broken down into layers. And even you folks that might not have version 11 or 12, the vectors that you import, the DXF file, when you import it, it's going to import with all the layers. Okay. So let's talk about that first. For those of you that might not be able to just open the CRV files, the carve files, or the CRV 3D if you're Aspire. For those of you that have to import, let's look at our job setup. So for the job setup, it's a single-sided job, 38 inches long by 20 and 5/16 inches tall. The thickness of this material is going to be 1.5 inches. I want to build up a model, so I want some meat to it and everything. So 38 by 20 and 5/16 by 1.5 inches. And for this project, for right now, I'm going to be working off the material surface for the Z0 and the bottom left corner for the XY datum. But the only reason I'm doing that, hear me out here, is my project, my frame that's going to get cut out and everything is larger than is smaller than my workpiece. My workpiece is larger. So I actually have a surface on the ends, either end, that will be untouched that I could set my Z0 on. All the rest of this is going to be, milled away, to create the sign and everything. So I do have a surface, a reference surface to zero out for my tool changes and everything. If this board would have been slightly smaller, the same size as my vectors, then I would set the job up to work off the machine bed. That way I have a known reference surface to work off of. And you might want to set it up that way just because we're starting from scratch here other than the vectors. And you all have what I have in those files. Download them and you'll have them and everything. Now, big key thing here. I'm hoping that Aspire can keep up with us, or my computer can keep up with Aspire. Let me say that because it's my computer more than anything. But we are working in a very high resolution here. I've got the maximum resolution, 16 million points, because when I build these parts and everything, I need the absolute crisp detail. Now, I could back this down to the 8 million points and still get a very good model out of it. But nothing's, if I'm building models, nothing, I'm not going to build it in any less of a resolution than the 8 million pixels. And the reason why I am setting mine to 50 million, 50 times slower, the 16 million pixels, is because this model, I'm giving that to you too. So when we build the model on this project and everything and build all the components and all, the finished sign minus Jonathan's name, right? That could be anyone's name, or the Ocala, Florida, that could be any state and everything. The rest of the model I'm providing that model, that STL model file to you as well. And I want it to be in the highest resolution possible, so you have a very high definition, good quality model, right? Okay. But if I see that it does cause me some problems or anything with processing times or anything like that, then I'll back it off to the 8,000 points. But we're gonna work with this because I'm pushing the boundaries. All right, so that's our job setup. Okay, so take a look at it, screenshot it, whatever you need to do. Let's get into it and let's start. Now, looking at going back to our layers here, they are currently right now in no particular order. But if I turn them off and we go one by one, the table base vector is just a. Let me highlight that so you can see it on the screen. Hopefully you can see it. If you can't see it, turn your YouTube resolution up. There should be a little gear at the bottom there. Click on it. Make sure you're at the 1080p or something, so you can see everything clearly. And I would turn on my little mouse highlight, but it didn't work with V12 early on. Let me check and see if it does now, if something's changed. If it doesn't, then unfortunately we won't have a mouse highlighter. Let me see if, hey, we have a mouse highlighter. It's working. Okay. All right. So the table base vector is the perimeter, right? And when we build the components, we build from the base up. Now, there's also going to be the outside edge vectors. These are the edges that are going to be the front of the table, or the top of the table, if you will. Those are those edges. The felt vectors, so those little triangular felt vectors, where the felt is going to kind of come down at an angle. Now, unfortunately, I can't do undercuts on the sign and all, so but we are going to have that nice little angle model component built and everything, so it looks like that. We have our, let's get back onto the screen here. We have our table corner accents. So most pool tables you'll see, they'll have some kind of decorative accent, some kind of metal plate or something over the corners and the edges and everything. And I have the table corner accents, and I also have the table side accents. So those are two separate layers. They're there. The slate. Now I want to turn all these off, and I want to show the slate. So the slate has these cutouts and everything on the perimeter and everything. So it fits. They fit the kind of the corners here fit kind of in the corner a little bit and everything. So let me turn all those back on. Okay, so we have our slate vector, and you can see that slate vector kind of goes into the pocket, right? For the pool table. I tried to draw this to scale as much as possible. We have our pocket holes. So the pocket holes. So there's a vector here for the pocket holes, and then that pretty much takes care of our table vectors, right? So that's what we're going to work on first. We're building those up. Then all the accents come in. We have our rack, which are going to be the balls and the stripes. We're going to build those up into models and components. And the sign vectors. So let's go to here. These little swooshes and different things. We're going to build those up. We have our layout boxes and lines. Now, the layout boxes and lines, this is where the text, Jonathan, Susan, Dave, whatever, this is where the name would go. And then I have this box down here, like if a city and state or something like that, or whatever you want would go there. All the little flourishes and everything, all the flourish vectors. Now, basically, these flourishes started out as just simple little flourishes. And then I added the curves and the contours to them, doing a little node editing. And we'll do a class on that so you can see that. But we're going to build these up into models from now. So from the flourishes, we have our text, right? So all the text there. We have a pool cue in here. So a pool cue. And if I turn everything off, except for that pool cue and everything, within the pool cue, there are additional vectors. And I need to straighten that vector out. That vector is a little crooked right there. But there's additional vectors because we're going to build up the parts of the cue too and stuff in the models. So every little vector on here has a purpose, and we're going to be utilizing every bit of it. So the start of all this is going to be the table-based vector. Okay, and what we want to do is, it took a whole 20 minutes to explain all of that, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so here we go. So we are going to work with the layers. I'll work with them from the drop-down box as I need them, but I need to get into the design tab here because we're going to start building up models. Now, everything that I'm doing tonight is an Aspire function, okay? So if you don't have Aspire, if you've got desktop or VCarve, don't dip on me. Hang out, take a look, because the way that I'm combining the models, the components, let me say the right words here. The way I'm going to be combining the components to build this composite model, you would have the ability to work with components in VCarve Desktop and VCarve Pro. You might have a bunch of models that you bought from Design and Make, and you're building some kind of scenery or some kind of, artwork where all these models are coming together, like an anchor and a rope and a chain or a boat or a dock or whatever the case may be. And you're going to need to be able to tilt and fade and combine and all of that stuff, all those components together properly for that sign. That is what we're doing here. The only thing that you will not be able to do is we're building the shapes from nothing. We're not working with existing shapes. We're building the shapes from nothing. So, but the rest of it is absolutely vital information that you can use in VCarve Desktop and Pro. Okay, so hang with me. Don't dip. Let's just kind of work through this. Now, right now in my component tree, under the Components tab, I'm in level 1. I will be adding more levels as we go for those components, but right now we're going to start building things in one level until they start to need to start combining differently with one another. Then we'll add levels, and that's kind of what the levels purpose is. All right, let's go ahead and get over here in our design tab, and we're going to start off. The foundation is going to be a flat shape, and what I have to remember is I have an 1.5 inch thick piece of material that I'm starting with. So every single component and model and stuff that I build on this table, I need to kind of, watch my heights and everything, and so I can stay within that 1.5 inches. But if I overshoot a little bit, I can make some adjustments, and that's what's going to be the great thing about, we can go back and adjust things until we get to the size that we need. So for now, like building a house, starting with the foundation up, I'm just going to create a foundation of a 1/2 inch. That's going to just be my foundation. So 0.5, and it's going to be just a simple combine mode of an add. We're going to use this vector, this boundary vector for our, and let me make sure that I'm in the right layer here. My table base vector, make sure it's bold. There we go. We're going to make sure that's the active layer, and we're going to go ahead and click the name and type base and click create. Now I'm going to split our screen, and in just a moment, and so we can see everything as it gets built.
Excuse me a sec, Laney.
Yes, Jared.
Can you off the banner on the upper left-hand corner?
Oh, yes, I can. I'm sorry. My bad. Hold on one second. Thank you. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, JR, for letting me know that. All right, but okay. There we go. And JR, you you did type it in the private chat. Thanks for that. I didn't see it. Unfortunately, I got to change my setup. My computer's over here to my right for our private chat. Okay, let me get things moving along here. And right now, I can already tell that my 50 times higher, my 16 million points of resolution is going to be a problem. So I'm going to turn it down a notch because that little hourglass is saying, hey, even now, this is just a flat shape. So if I'm struggling on that, then I'm going to be struggling on other things as we're streaming and stuff. Let's see here. Yes, JR had a great point. This could be absolutely a beautiful epoxy inlay project. It's just kind of building up whatever the walls would be to create those different epoxy colors and everything and all that. Let me really quickly, and I'll answer some questions, but let me go back in here real quick and just let me crank this down just a little bit. And what I will do is I will make sure that I go back and rebuild all of these parts in a higher resolution for that model that's going to get released to you. Okay. All right, let's see what we got here. Brooksmart says, hey, Laney, do you have a process to dial in bit geometry? I bought a 3P CNC router bit, 6mm carbide engraving, V-groove, and that stuff. So, Brooks, there's only really two ways to go about that. Number one is the manufacturer that you bought the bit set from, or that manufacturer the bit set on, find their website, and they should have some type of geometry PDF document or some type of CAD document of their router bits, or at least by at least a description of them with the specs and with the description. Generally, there's there shows like a graphic or an image with a measurements and stuff, but you're going to have to draw them to scale. Some companies like Amana and Magnate and Speed Tool and IDC Woodcraft and things provide vector files that you can download from their website of the bit geometry, so you can just import it in and then you can create and all. But for the bits that you named, the V-groove, that V-groove bit, and it looks like a 6mm carbide engraving, that V-groove bit, that's just a common bit. You don't need the geometry for that. You just type it in. Exactly what you typed right there in the comment section is what you put in the tool settings. And then it's the matter of just determining the speeds and feeds. A good default speed and feed would be 18,000 RPMs to be your spindle speed. And then, about 65 to 75 inches a minute for the feed rate, 25 inches a minute for the plunge rate, and go from there. Okay, so yep, Roger Brown, you're absolutely correct. Vectric does, under the partner projects in your Vectric portal, it is the case studies. There's a file for a pool table under case studies and everything, for sure. Need to remove the banner. Got it. All right. Okay, so let's go and split our view here. And let's look at what we've got here for our part. And again, right now, I've got just the rough edges. That's fine. But in our component tree, you should now be able to see the base component here. And if I go to the properties of the base component, we should be at a base height of 0.5. I don't know where 0 came into play, but 0.5 base height. And then the combine mode is add as our foundation. That's going to be a good starting point. Okay. All right. Now, I will say this. If V12 continues to give me a hard time, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to open this up in 11.5 and build it in there because I don't have these types of delays and everything in 11.5. And I know V12 is utilizing, there's that habit. I know V12 is utilizing more of the, GPU and CPU and stuff and all this and everything. But something is bottlenecking because there's a slight hang up, that little delay on the build and stuff that I don't experience that with 11.5. And it's probably just my computer. So nothing, Yep. So there we go. A problem has occurred with the program, causing the program to close. And I'm going to send that error report. I'm actually going to send that error report, but it crashed. We absolutely had a crash here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to open this up in 11.5, and I'm going to build it from there. Unfortunately, I can't use the new features in 12 because it caused a crash. I don't know what caused the crash, but something caused the crash. Oh, let me give it one more shot. And I'll just go with a lower resolution. But we did experience a crash. So, interesting. All right, let's give this another go. So, open an existing file. We're going to give it one more shot. If I crash again, then we're gonna work in 11.5. All right, so one more time, let's go to the layers. Let's turn everything off here. Let's turn on our base layer, and just like before, we're going to select that. We're going to go into here 0.5. It's going to be my foundation, and click create. I'll rename that component to base in just a second. Yeah. All right. So here's what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen. I can see that this is a potential for a potential crash. It's just locking up, and it might be, there might be a fix in there, but I'm not going to take the chance. We can't waste that kind of time. So let's go ahead and let me open up version 11.5. So I will be working in version 11.5 tonight, and then I'll work with Vectric tomorrow. They open at 4 a.m. my time, so I'll get with them and see what exactly is causing the crashes. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll let this process out. I'm going to go ahead and open an existing file from the 11.554. Same folder. All right, and then while that opens, let me close the 12 program, get it out of there. All right, one more time, ladies and gentlemen. I am now in 11.554. So I will, don't worry, the model file will be the same, but I don't get to work in the fancy new interface and all. All right, so here we go. We're going to go to our layers. I'm going to turn off all the layers except for our table-based vector. I'm going to go into the modeling tools, and we're going to create a flat shape that is going to be 0.5 inches, half inch thick. And we're going to call this base. And click apply. Beautiful. All right, so let's split the view so we can work as we go. All right, now I'm going to start a new component. We're starting a new component. Now in version 12, I don't have to click start a new component. It automatically, once the component is created, it's ready to start creating the next one. Version 11.5, when I'm finished creating one component, I have to tell it to start a new component, that I'm going to be selecting new vectors for a new component. So the next layer I'm going to turn on are the table edges. Now with the table edges, these are my side rails, and they're going to for this, again, it's not a real pool table, so I'm not trying to build up a pool table. I'm just trying to build a sign. So I'm going to select all 4 of these vectors, and I'm going to probably give them a height of I'm probably going to give them a height of a 1/2 inch as well. So they're going to be in add mode. So it's going to be, we're going to be sitting right on top of the foundation. So it's going to be in add mode, and we're going to go a 1/2 inch on the base height, and we'll click apply on that as well. All right. And start a new component. Now, as I go through, when I save these and stuff, I'm going to be saving, but when I drop the file, the saved file into Dropbox, I'll make a note, or I'll notify you verbally that, and then you could use that same link if you want to download the updated file from where we're at. But this will drop into the 11.554 folder. All right, so let me reposition this just to kind of get up close and personal here and everything, so we can see what we have. So we have our foundation, and we have these corner rails. Now the next set of vectors that we're going to be working with is going to be the felt vectors. And on the felt vectors, now these are going to add, but they need to merge with the outside rails. So this is where levels come in. So I need the outside rails that we just built right here, and the felt cushion areas to combine with each other, but I need those 2 individual components to add on top of the foundation. So in my component tree, I need to insert a new level, and the component 1, which is going to be the outside. Let me rename these. I want to be kind of like on it tonight. I want to be on the ball. So these are my outside rails. I want to make sure that everything is tight and right with tonight's class. All right, I'm going to drag outside rails up into the level 2. And I'm going to change the combine mode to merge. Now, if I were still in level 1 and I changed that combine mode to merge, because they're a 1/2 inch tall and my base is a 1/2 inch tall, they would literally merge inside that base and they would disappear. Okay. But because level 2's combine mode is set to add, even though the component is merging with whatever other component's going to be in that level, it's being added to the level below it, level 1. Okay, so that's why it's not sinking down in there. If I were to change level 2's combine mode to merge, you would see those outside vectors, they will disappear when the levels process here in 2 seconds. You'll see it disappear, and you'll see these green areas showing that one model's inside of another, right? We don't want that. All right, let me switch that back to add. Beautiful. All right, now the felt cushions. Now these are going to have a bit of an angle, and a little bit of base height and everything to kind of build them up. But they're going to have kind of a slope to them. Now, I'm going to just do one for right now. Let's do the one that we're right on top of right here so we can see it. So that's going to be this one here. On the shape, I want to believe that it is a kind of an angular shape. But I don't think it is, because an angular shape is kind of going to go in the middle of this part and create kind of like a pyramid. It's not going to be flat, just a straight angle down, right? So I believe I'm going to have to do a 2-rail sweep with the angle that I want. But let me try the combine or the angle first. And this is going to be a slight angle. I'm going to go probably 22.5 degrees. And for right this moment, I'm going to give it a base height of 0.375. And then I'm going to blend to the inner vector. Nope, there is no inner vector. Let me see here. I'm going to limit to a height. That's not going to work either. Let's give it a try, but though 0.25 and merge and apply. I do not believe that this is going to be the right method. So I think I'm going to have to do a 2-rail sweep, but I just, I want to make sure that I'm, and that's exactly what I thought. It's going to create that pyramid in the middle, and it's not what I want at all. Now, of course, I could, if I wanted to, I could pull the vector further into the model here so that the center point is somewhere hidden within here. But it's just going to be easier for me to do a 2-rail sweep. So this is where, adding and creating the vectors and stuff, I'm going to hit reset on this. This is where, you might have a certain set of vectors, but you have to create more to do what you want to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is in my layers, I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to call this my sweep vectors. And I will give it a color of red, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. And the rectangle, I'm going to go longer than my actual part here, but the same width. Now, my sweep vectors layer is active, and I'm actually going to go beyond the ends. Okay. Now this vector is the same size as my rail. If you notice the rail here, it goes past that blue line, so it merges and everything properly, and that's what you're seeing here. Now, on a 2-rail sweep, we do not need the ends spans, so we're going to delete them off the ends, and that's going to create our 2-rail sweep. And then I'm making one, right? And then that one, I can copy that model and rotate it appropriately for all the rest. I don't need to do one for every single one. I can just make one and then copy it around. All right. So with that, now I need a vector. So for the vector, we're going to start with a rectangle that is, we're going to start with a rectangle that is 0.5 inches tall, same height as my outside rails there, 0.5. And the width is going to be the width of my rails here, which was let me see here. Give me just a moment. 0.8239. Now I'm looking at the bottom right corner. When I select a vector, it shows me those numbers, but I could also go into the size tool and I could see that number here, right? 0.8239. So my vector that we're creating, that's what I want it to be. So I'm going to go to the size tool and it's going to be 0.5 inches tall, and it's going to be 0.8239. Okay. All right. So with that, that's my shape. I can close that tool now. Now, this is going to have, an angle. So we don't use the bottom span. Okay. So what I want is node editing. I want to get rid of that bottom span. And imagine that this right here, this left side, is the back that's bumped up against my rail here, that's in my rail, right? So the cushion, we have our rails, the cushion has just a slight angle. So it's literally, we're just going to kind of bring that down. Okay. Now that cushion actually is a triangular shape like this, where there's an undercut, but we can't do undercuts, right? So we're just going to, have that angle down. And the angle, just it's aesthetics, right? We're not building a pool table right now. So it's just aesthetics and everything. So just that nice little angle down. So I'm going to kind of just, I think that'll look good for me. And so this will be my profile. Now, my start point is going to be here, okay, on this left side. And then I want that back side to be here on this rail, the back rail. So I'm going to select that back rail first and this rail second. And in the modeling tools, I'm going to use the 2-rail sweep tool. Did I freeze up, ladies and gentlemen? Are we still moving along in class? JR, am I still doing good?
Yeah, 5 by 5 by me.
Okay, wonderful. All right. So just wanted to make sure of that. I'm looking at my computer screen preview, and it's frozen back like an hour ago. All right. So with the rail here, once again, I selected the top rail first, kind of that back rail first, the lower rail second, and that's going to be my drive rails. Okay. My profile is going to be here, and that profile is going to get swept. Even though the profile is upright like this, and my vectors are horizontal like that and everything, it's still going to get turned and swept across and everything. So what we should see, and let me get in a better kind of view here for you all. What we should see is that angled profile gets swept there. So this one is going to be a merge, and the because the because the lines are straight. There's no real need to scale between the cross sections, but you could check that if you wanted to. I'll just check it and we'll click apply. And then we'll build up that part. And you should see that part happen. Here. Okay. Now, don't worry about the ends here. They're going to get cut off. You're going to see that. That's the next step. So don't worry about those ends and everything. But if we look closely, because the angle, happens back here, and it is sloping down, I'm getting this little lip right here, and I'd like a nice transition. So I have to actually create that transition in my profile, because the vector line that I'm sweeping and my part shape is behind that outside edge vector. I need to, get my little measurement there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit reset. So I'm going to reset that, and that's going to just basically blank it out. And I'm going to take a measurement of how far away I am here. Okay, that might overlap basically. And the overlap is the same for all. Should be the same for all. So let me close this really quickly and open up in the drawing tab. I'm going to go to my measurement tool, and I'm simply going to measure. Let it update the model real quick. It's kind of updating that model. While it's doing that, let me get something to drink. So JR has a good question. What about tilt and fade? Would tilt and fade, work in a scenario like what we were just experiencing? And in this scenario, no, because that pyramid that was getting created by the angular shape, if I fade, right, it's just fading down to there. And if I tilt, it's just tilting that angle up. Right. So it'll never be the right method or the right part for what we're trying to create here, unfortunately. All right. So we need to do a vertical measurement from here down. And it's simply 0.056 is the distance. 0.056 is my distance. And so I'll leave that dimension there for just a moment. Let me select this vector again. This vector. Oh, let me not be an idiot right now. 0.056 is my measurement. So I need to actually, I'm using a guideline to help me here. I need to create that over here. So I'm going to create a relative line 0.056. And I'm going to go into node editing. And on that line, I'm going to insert a point. I'm going to select this node first. I'm going to hold down the shift key and select this node second. And I'm going to hit the letter Y on my keyboard because up and down is the Y axis. I'm going to pull that up. Okay, so we'll be straight here, and then we'll start to taper, and that'll give me a nice blend where I'm supposed to. All right, so with that, now I can select. I don't need that measurement any longer. I can select this vector first, this vector second, go into my 2-rail sweep tool. That will be my selection. Create that profile, and it's going to be a merge. And I'm just going to call this component. I'm going to go ahead and call it cushion rails. Cushion rails? Yeah. Perfect. All right, so now we should see the part get created, and we should see that nice blend in there down to the angle. And again, Don't worry about the ends. We're about to, I'm going to get us in a better rotation here. And unfortunately, you know, hey, it is what it is. The undercut, you know, there is no undercut, right? But a true cushion would actually have that undercut, that angular cut and everything. But we got to, you know, it is what it is. Now we can, I'm going to take this model. Let me close this. I'm going to take this model file. And I'm going to keep the original uncut model here. And give me just a moment. In my component tree, that cushion rail there, I am going to create another level. Now, the level that I'm going to create now is going to be where I will put a duplicate of this and I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to hide that the visibility of that level. And it's if I ever have to go back to that cushion, this raw, untrimmed cushion that I just made right here, and make whatever change that I need to it, I have the original. I don't necessarily need to do that, but I like keeping my originals intact so I can very easily go back and make changes or adjustments. I don't have to recreate the part again. So I'm going to take that cushion and I'm going to duplicate it. And that duplicated cushion is going to go up into level 3. And it's going to get unchecked, turned off. And so is the level. Now, here's the important part. On this level 3, I'm going to actually drag the whole level to the bottom because I'm going to be building more levels as I go. And, you know, the level 3 is going to be, it'll be closed, it'll be minimized and stuff. But I'm actually going to bring it down here to the bottom and then turn it off. And that's where any if I have to make any original models that are get trimmed or this or that, I'll just drag them into that level 3 and stuff down at the bottom. Okay, so let's go ahead and uncheck that level 3 and make level 2 active. So that red says that level 3 is active right now. So we're going to make level 2 active. And there we go. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and make my copies and pass them around before I do my trimming. Okay, so when we, on this model here, I'm going to hold down my, on this model, I'm going to hold down my control key and my alternate key, and I'm dragging a copy over to here. The alternate key keeps me on my axis, and the control key makes the copy. Okay. All right. I'm going to now select both of those models, and I'm going to go to my mirror tool, and I'm going to flip them vertically about the job center because my project is centered on the table, and I'm going to flip them vertically there. So let's zoom out so we can see those. And then I'm going to take, doesn't matter which one, close the mirror tool. I'm going to hold down my control key and I'm going to drag a copy over here. And now I'm going to rotate. Now, when we rotate, okay, let me zoom in to the 2D view here a bit. When we rotate, the white part of this gray scale is the highest part of the model. And the darkest part of the grayscale is the lowest part of that model, that angle part and all things. So it tells me I need to rotate counterclockwise. So that's going to be the number 9 key on the keyboard. I'm going to hit that twice. Okay. All right, now I'm going to drag this and basically kind of snap it. And it doesn't really snap, should I say, but I want to get it into position. Now, to make sure that I'm absolutely in position here, that I'm not just eyeballing it and everything, I'm going to, because if you see, my model is on the wrong side of the vector, right? So with that model selected, I'm going to hold down my shift key and I'm going to select the vector. So now I have the model selected and the vector. Wait for it. Has to update the model every time I bump or move it or something. All right. So with that vector selected, I'm going to use my alignment tool. So the item I want to align, I selected first. The item I want to align to, selected last. So in my alignment tool, I want to align to that last item, that vector, left to right. Okay. Perfect. Beautiful. And again, no trimming has occurred or anything. All right, so now with that, I'm going to open up my mirror tool. I do not need the vector selected, just the model. And I'm going to mirror that, flip about job center, create a mirror copy, and flip it horizontal to the other side. All right. All right. So now we're getting through there, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting through there. Okay, so now comes the trimming. So let's go ahead and close this. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the vector, and then we're going to select the component. And the tool that we're going to be using is a tool that says click the area, clear, not click, clear the area of the selected component outside of the selected vector. So we could clear inside or outside the vector. In this case, we're clearing outside of the vector. So when I click that, it's going to remove anything that's outside of that vector, and it's going to trim it to that vector. Okay, so we just need to repeat those steps for the rest, and we're good to go. Now, I could very easily select all the vectors and select all the models and just do them with one click of the button. Either way accomplishes the task, but let me see. I'll do that on the next ones. We'll just clear them all. And then I can turn off those red lines and everything as well. All right, so let's select the components. So component rail 4, that one's already done. Three and 5. All right, let me turn that one off. All right, so those are selected, the selected vectors. I'm going to hold down the shift key, select, or those are the models, sorry, components. Components. Components are the parts that make up a composite model. The composite model is a model that is made up of multiple components. All right, so we're going to go ahead and clear. All right, now this is what I was trying to avoid. It says, hey, in order to do this, all of those parts have to be baked together in order to do this. And that's all okay, but I want to keep my rails separate. I don't want to bake them into one. We'll do baking and all that stuff in just a moment. I've got a better tool than baking that we'll use, but I don't want to do it now. So I'm going to do them one by one so that baking is not required. And it is what it is, what it is. All right, let's go here. And all I'm doing is selecting the model component, the vector, and then you're clicking the icon to clear, select the component outside of the selected vector. Okay, 2 more and we can move on. Okay. 1 more. Component, hold the shift key down, vector, clear. All right. Now, how now, brown cow? All right, all right, all right. So now if we maximize this really quickly and let's spin her around here, you can see what we've got so far. We haven't removed any area or anything for the corner or the side pockets and all that stuff, but this is where we're at this particular moment. Okay, so now the first thing I'm going to do is in my layers, that sweep vector layer, I'm going to turn that off. And notice when I turned it off, the model rails disappeared with them, right? Because when I copied them and I created them, every single one of them were in that layer, that active layer. So I'm going to take just a quick second. I'm going to select the rails, the model components, and I'm going to move them back to the table felt vector area. I want to keep the vectors and the model components with their vectors together. All right, so now I can go back in and turn off that layer and they'll stay there. Perfect. Same thing with my outside rails and everything. With that selected, I want to make sure that the outside rails are on the proper layer. As soon as it updates itself. Outside edges. Beautiful. And then last but not least, the base. That should be on the base there. Okay, perfect. Great. Wonderful. I just want to keep things tight and right for you all, so it's easy for you when we save these files. Speaking of save, now is the time, a good time to hit save. And then what I will also do is wonderful. I am working in the 11.55 file, so I will come in and all right, so it's been saved in Dropbox as well, the updated file up to this point. Okay, so now the next vector, set of vectors that we're going to work with, let's go to our layers over here. And our corner accents, let's go ahead and get those built up. And The corner accents is made up of 2 vectors. Now, the one vector, the outside vector, that's going to be the one that's going to build the part. An inside vector is going to be a slight little recess because I'm not going to make it a recess. I'm going to build it up a little bit higher. So it's like a little accent and everything. So let's go back to our split view and let's, I'm going to be building up all of these at one time because they're all going to be identical. So let me select all 4 of the outside corners, just the outside ones. Now, these are meant to look like they're sitting on top of the outside rails. They're just, sitting slightly on top of the outside rails. So when I build these, I want them to have a little bit of a rounded edge, flat on the top, but I want the edges to be like a little rounded, not sharp and everything. And they're going to be higher than my 1/2 inch tall rails. Okay, so let's get into a corner so we can see what happens here when we build this. But this is going to be a flat shape, not a flat shape. That was a lie. It's going to be a curved shape. For those of you that are in V12, it's going to be a curved shape. And I want a full 90-degree curve, like a round over. Okay. Now, if I don't do anything but leave that 90 degrees in there, it's going to be a big old dome, right? I don't want that. The base height, I want this height to be taller than my 1/2 inch rail. So I'd like to have it probably about 0.625. 0.625. Don't even know why I typed a 9 there. I might even go even a little bit higher than that, but 0.625 for now. We'll see what it looks like. Now, here's the key. I need a flat top. I want it to round over. So if I did not limit the height right now, it would create just this big old bubble, this big old dome with a 5/8 inch straight meat underneath it. And if I were to display that, if I were to click apply, you're going to see this 5/8 inch base straight meat with this 90-degree dome on top of it, right? And everything. And then it's going to be stepped off here where my part goes beyond. This is where the merge comes in and everything versus the add. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But, we would have this dome. Let me turn off the limit. Let me show you what I was referring to with the dome. Let me click apply on that and all. And let me merge it. All right. So what you see here is not what we want, right? But it's a big old dome, like a big old bubble, and this 90-degree dome with this straight meat underneath it and everything. And the option that we're choosing to limit to height is saying, hey, okay, start rounding off, but when that shape gets up to a certain height, flatten off. Okay. Limit to height means, okay, start that 90-degree curve, whatever your angle is, but then at a certain height, flatten off. And for us, we're going to limit to height. And the height I want just small, right? So I'm going to go probably about a 1/16 of an inch because I just want a slight little round over, just the peak of a round over. So 0.0625. I'm going to click apply and everything. And I need to merge this in, but we're going to have to put it in another level. I built it in the wrong level. We'll move it in just a second. So this is going to be my corner accent. Main. And I'm going to go ahead and click apply once again. And I'm going to go put it in the right level. So let it readjust and then we'll put it in the right level. So Yes, just saved. And Doug, I just saved it not only on my computer, but I saved it to a copy of it to Dropbox. So we're good to go. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so let me close this tool for a minute. Let's go back to our component tree. And this is where the insert a new level. All right, now what you're seeing here is a we're going to fix that in just a second, but we're going to fix this. I'm going to show you exactly what we need to do. I need another vector that I did not have in. But if we kind of turn here, what you should see is that we are slightly sitting on top of or higher than our rails. And then we got a nice little round over, just a nice little round over edge, just kind of breaking that sharp corner and everything. But we have this lip here that's kind of dropped down, right? That's my pack that should be up. And the reason why it's down is because there's no foundation underneath it. Under my corners, and it's going to happen, the same thing is going to happen with my side accent. There's no foundation underneath that. So what I need to do is I need to take a second and I need to go into my layers and I need to turn off all the layers for just a moment, except for the base vector layer and my corner accent vectors and my side accent vectors. And what I need to do is I need to take these, let me turn off the base vectors. So just these vectors here, I need to select them and I need to copy them to the base vector layer. Copy the base vector layer. Okay. Then I can turn those off. And on that base vector layer, now I have a set of vectors that I can trim, cut, weld, do whatever, and I'm not screwing up my originals, right? So make sure that layer is active, because what I need to do is I need to select my base and all of the corner and side, corner, side, and corner. And I need to weld those two items together. Okay. So when I weld that part together and all, let me turn off. There we go. When I weld, had the model selected too. When I weld those parts together, it's going to create that little step out and everything, right? So now that I've done that, the remaining vectors that are there can get deleted, right? So they were just copies and I don't need them. I just needed the outside ones. Now I need to go into my modeling tools in that level 1 base model. I need to delete it, which I did. I just deleted it. But now I need to just quickly rebuild it. So I need to go into my shape tool. I need to create a base height of 1/2 inch. That's what it was before. It's a flat shape. It's the base, B-A-S-E, and it's an add, and I need to click apply. Now what we're going to see is my foundation come back. Okay. And there we go. Perfect. Close that. Make sure that my base is down in my level 1. I want that always the foundation. We're building up from the foundation. So I wouldn't have to drag models around if I would have made the correct level active before I made the part, right? So level 1 should have been clicked on and made active. Then I should have built the part. All right. So now with that little correction, you can see now that my corner piece has that slight little round over all the way around and everything. And now, you know, it's even and all because it's sitting, it has something to sit on now. There's not that drop down in the back. All right, let's take a look at this. So far, this is what we're at with our pool table. We got our corners and stuff. Okay, moving along, trying to get along as quickly as possible. It'll start kind of picking up here once we get things going. So now let's go ahead and in our layers, we are going to, let's turn our vectors back on here to see where we're at. Okay, so the next part that I want to build is going to be this little raise here. And I should have built the sides with the corners, but that's okay. We'll keep things separate like I got them nice and separated. Okay, with those little accent areas, I want to make sure that the layer that I'm working on is my corner accent. I want to make sure it's bold. I also want to make sure that my component that I'm working on is my level 4 here. Okay, and make sure it's active. So now I want to create that shape, and this is going to be, again, just I would like to see a slight buildup, but when I create a toolpath, I might put a texturing toolpath on there to create like a little texture, like a little roughage and everything on those corners to give an accent, you know, for because this picture doll versus just being a plain, you know, piece of wood. But I'm going to build those up. So this is going to be a flat shape. And actually, it's going to be a conical shape. We're going to go 45 degrees. We're going to have a base height of a 16th. Now let's go an eighth. 0.125, and then a limit height of 0.0625. And then this will be our corner accent centers. It's going to be an add. So when I click apply, we'll zoom in so you can see what gets built there. All right, let's get in here on this corner. All right, 1/8 of an inch is too high of a base height. I'm actually thinking I want 0 base height. So we're going to go 0 base height. Click apply. I think I want the 45-degree angle to just to come right out of the top and then flatten off at that 1/16 of an inch. No base height. There we go. Nice little blend there. All right. Perfect. And then I'll end up putting a little texture on that with a toolpath. Okay, let's go ahead and start a new component. And so that's going to take care of our corner accents. Now we're ready to do the 2 side accents, the slate and the pocket holes. And then that's it. So let's do do our corner side accents really quickly. So this and this. This is the same height as the original main base, not these corner accents there. So it's going to be a curved profile, 90 degrees, same round over stuff. It's going to be a limit to height, 1/16 of an inch, with a base height of 0.625, because it's got to go from the foundation up, 0.625, just like the other ones. Because remember, side rails are a 1/2 inch, so we're going an 1/8 inch above that. And uno, presto, bundo, merge. And then we'll click apply. Let's give it a name before we do our final apply. So this will be our side accents. Okay. All right. And let's switch over to our sides here to see what's happening. So I want you to see what's happening here. This is because, and it's fine, I expected it to happen because I knew I had it in the wrong level. So the side accent has to actually go down into level 2 so that it's merging. So that side accent model is merging with those side rails. Right now it's sitting on top of them. That's why it looks punched up like that, is because it's sitting on those side rails. And that's because that level 4 is adding to the level below it, right? So we need it merging. So it's got to be in the same level as those side rails, right? So that's what we want to see right here. And don't worry about this bit of meat right here. That's going to be gone in just a second when we do our pocket holes. Okay, so now we're going to, with that is pretty much our pool table as far as all the accent stuff. Now we're going to just add a little piece of slate in here that'll give it our little definition. So let's go to layers and let's go to our table slate vector. Let's get that turned on. And this one's going to be small. So it's going to be a flat shape. In the modeling tools, just a flat shape. And it's going to sit about 1/8 of an inch up. So 0.125. And it's going to be an add, and the slate, it needs to merge. So it's going to be a merge, sorry. And it needs to be on the same level as the side rails and the cushions and everything. So let me give it a name, slate, and then I'll make sure I move it to the correct level. And again, if you have the correct level selected before you create the part, it'll go in that level, right? But I think I have a different level selected. So I'll just drag and move it where it belongs. So we'll call that slate and hit apply. And what this is going to do is it's going to just give a little 1/8 inch piece of meat right here, but it's going to kind of give us the definition of that pocket hole look on the inside. So I'll show you that when we get there. Now let's go ahead and click close on this for a moment and make sure that the slate goes into the right layer. It needs to be in the level 2 level. I keep saying layer, level. Components have levels. Level 2. There we go. And got to stay on top of myself on this one. And I need to take this selected model and I need to move it over to the Slate layer, table Slate layer. I created it in the wrong layer too, right? So got to stay on top of myself. All right, so now let's get off of that and let's zoom in and look at what we have here. So basically that 1/8 inch piece of slate that was built up, it's merging and everything. We're now starting to look a little bit more like a pool table, except for those side pockets right there. We'll fix that in just a minute. But we got that, recessed area right here, right? So, and of course, I could make those pockets even a little deeper by removing, the next shape that I'm about to do. I could make them a little bit deeper and everything. Or I could just leave it just like that because the slate gives it that illusion. If I look at this straight on, it gives the, except for the sides right there, we'll fix that. But it gives the illusions of the pockets already, right? We're not making a pool table, so it doesn't have to be a physical hole all the way through. It's a picture, it's a wall art, right? But let's focus on this here. And the reason why there's this dividing line in this hole here is because the side rail of the table is a full length side rail, right? So that area right here has to be removed. And so I'm going to do one side at a time, but I need to select this side rail, which is this outside rail here. And I need to select, I got to turn it on first, but I need to select the pocket holes. And that vector right there, I need to select the side rail. And of course, it's all the rails because it's one model. I built it. I didn't build them up individually. If I did, then I would just select one of the slide rails, but I did them all at once. But I need to come over and hold down the shift key and select this vector as well. And then I need to remove the area inside the selected vector. So the selected component, outside rails, remove everything inside the vector. So when I do that, it's going to remove that part of the model. Here in just a second. Okay, to open that up. Here we go. All right. Now, when we do smoothing, it'll smooth all these edges and everything. All right, let's go ahead. Now's a good time once again for me to hit save, as we go. Right. Now, on the pocket holes, if I did want them a little deeper, then I would just go through. Wait for it. I would just go through and I would make sure my pocket holes or layer is active there. I would select all of those vectors, select that layer's vectors, right? And then I would create a shape that would be a flat shape, flat down. I don't want a curved shape, but it'd be a flat shape. Remember my base is a 1/2 inch, so I could, if I wanted to, it's not necessary because I don't want my bit having to go down there and try to clean all that up. But anyway, let's say just for kicks and giggles, I go 1/4 inch deep, and it would be a subtract. So I would be subtracting that material from the components underneath, right? So all the components, anything that's inside that vector is going to get subtracted down by that 1/4 inch. So if I clicked apply, it would take and it would drop that area down by that additional 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so now if we look at our holes, and let me get to this corner. This corner hole. Now we have our 1/8 inch piece of slate there, remember? And then we have our 1/4 inch hole, right, where it removed that additional, 1/4 inch of material. So we've got, basically a 3/8 inch deep hole there. So I'm going to leave that as that. That's my holes. That's my corners. That's my what have you. And we will go from there. Now, there is one other vector. There's one other vector that I have. Let me go ahead and click on Start a New Component. There's one additional vector. Let it build the model up. There we go. Which is this right here. And this is kind of the accent of the side pieces. So I'm going to build both of them at the same time. Let me just, this is the last, and then we're done with that. And we can move on to the cool stuff. It's 9 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to really, if I have to break this up into 2 parts, I got to break it up in 2 parts. But it's not good, conducive for our learning if we're tired and all that stuff. And, so, but with those vectors selected, the next shape that I'm going to build is, first of all, I'm going to make sure I'm in the right layer this time. I need it to merge with level 2. So I'm going to be in level 2 here. And I need it to be higher, slightly, just a little bit higher than the top part here, which, if you recall, I built up to 0.625 inches tall. And I'm thinking I'm going to do a little chamfer. Yeah. So in our shape that we create, we will do now. Let's round it over because everything else is rounded over. All right, we'll do a curved profile. We'll round it over. 90 degrees, 0.625. I want to go just slightly higher than that. So I'm going to go 0.6875. 0.6875. It's a 1/16 of an inch higher than 5/8. I'm going to do a limit to height. So I'll flatten it back off at a 1/16 of an inch. And I want it to merge. And I can't type the name in yet, but it's going to be the side component accent. And all it is just a little, literally just a little lip around, right around the hole. So side accent near hole. I'll just call it that. And we'll click apply. Wait for it. Okay, now let's go look at this. Okay, and I'm going to tilt this a little bit. All right, so right here, it's because of the height and everything, it didn't really flatten it out like I want. So a 1/16 of an inch for that limit to height is a little much. And I just want it to be a little bit of an accent. So I'm actually going to, I'm going to set that to, let's go a 32nd, 0.03125. Let's click apply on that again. We can continue to change and click apply to to keep changing it until we, we're satisfied with it and everything. That's what I want. So that's what I want. Just a slight little round over and then flat on the top. All right, let's close that. Let's take a look here. Okay, let's take a look at our pool table. Let's go down the x-axis here for a minute, and let's give it just a slight little tilt here. So what we have now, this is our wall art, right? This is our sign that's going to be hanging up. But we have what gives us the illusion of a pool table, right? Now, the only thing missing are our little studs, our little markers and everything here along the edge. And that's going to be our next part that we build. But we've got a pretty cool looking, I would say, I guess you would call it like a frame or our backboard to our sign, right? So imagine that, hanging on the wall, this billiard sign. It's going to have a, pretty cool look. And then when we actually do the tool pass and we create a little bit of a texture in these raised areas, just a slight little texture to give it a little bit of roughage, it just gives it that extra accent and everything. All right, so the last thing that we need to do to complete the pool table is our little pool cue layer here. For some reason, I got it on the pool cue layer, but these vectors right here, we are actually going to be selecting them, and we're going to be moving them to a correct layer first. All right, and we're going to right click and move to a new layer. This is going to be our marking studs. Okay, and then I'm going to go in there and make sure that layer is active, and I'm going to turn off the pool cue layer. And then for these little bad boys, we're going to, on our shape, they're going to kind of have like a little little conical shape to them, like a rivet almost, with a flat top, right? No base height, just a slight little beveled edge and all, maybe a little bit of base, but it's going to be a conical shape. We're going to go a 45 degrees. For right now, I'll go 0 base height. 0 base height. Limit to height. A 1/16 of an inch, and add that's going to be sitting on top. We're just going to call this our marking studs, and that's not really the proper name for them, but we'll click apply. And so these are going to be adding on top of those rails and everything. All right, let's take a look here. And that's just going to be our little accent, right? So that no base height is perfect. It kind of just a nice little slight transition and angle, about a 1/16 of an inch up, and then it flattens off and everything. And that's going to create our little studs, right? Such a little stud. All right, let's see here. All right. Is everybody awake? Y'all doing good? What do you think so far? Are we getting through this? Are you understanding what we're doing? Am I explaining it well enough? Give me any bit of feedback you can in the chat, and we'll do what we can. All right, let's go ahead and one more time, we're going to hit save here in just a second, and then I'm going to save that file to the updated file to Dropbox. So we're going to go File, Save. Almost. It's writing the component data. I really wish, I really wish this was in version 12, because I would very much like to be able to see my vectors in the 3D view. I love that new feature. I love being able to work with the vectors in the 3D view as well as the 2D view. I like being able to see them, work with them, change them, add them, whatever from that 3D view. I love that function. This split view here wouldn't be necessary if I had that, right? That function availability and all that stuff. So I missed that. All right, really quickly, let me save this file to Dropbox. Wonderful. It has been saved in Dropbox as well too. Okay. All right. Now, for those of you that are just joining late or anything like that, in the chat right now, in the chat, in Dropbox, right? Class files are there. You go. And then just as a reminder, because if you share them in Dropbox or you have them in Dropbox and you put them in your Dropbox, if you delete them from my Dropbox, it deletes them all together. So don't edit. So let me put that little note in there. Dropbox is weird. It's just like, we used to have in the Digital Woodcarver owners group, we had files all organized in a Dropbox. One of our customers organized all the files in Dropbox. And one of our customers didn't understand how Dropbox works. So they had all the files merged with their Dropbox and everything. Well, anyway, they were deleting files. And it was deleting the files from the master Dropbox folder also. So we lost all those files. They're gone. Just deleted them. But, it is what it was. But so that little disclosure there, take those files, download them on your computer. You can throw them in your Dropbox or something, or work with them on your computer. Just don't edit them in the Dropbox folder. Okay. All right. So there we go. So there's our pool table and all the vectors and everything for our pool table. Now we can start to work on the other vectors. So our sign. So here we go. So let's go into our layer tools. I want to, the pool table stuff I want to keep separate. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new level. And I'm going to rename this level, because you can rename and name your levels and everything. This is going to be my sign vector or sign components. And I'll think about, the pool table components. Rename that pool table components, and rename this actually rename that. That'll be my pool table accents. All right, so in our sign components, make sure that's active. We're going to go ahead and turn on some layers now. Let's go to our layers here, and let's just kind of start turning things on and all. And let's take a look at, what we've got. What we've got going on here. So there we go. All right, so now we're building up, the billiard balls, the text and everything. And to really kind of get started, I'm going to start with the two banner areas, these two sweeps, banner areas where it says rack 'em up and break room. And then we'll do the text and then the flourishes and then the billiards and everything. So we'll just kind of go in that order because I want to really see a lot of this. It's 9:20. I need a show of hands. How many of you are asleep? How many of you are ready to go to bed? How many of you give me just a second here. I'm teaching a class right now. You'll have to call me later. Okay. Do we stop here, save everything, and continue another night where everybody's fresh? Jared, I'd like your input on that too. If you're hanging in or, how you're doing or anything like that, let me know. Or if we just continue along because it's 9:21. I'm kind of at that, I'm at that stage where I'm not tired or anything, but I'm at that stage where I don't think anyone learns very well when their minds are exhausted. So what do you think, JR?
I'm thinking,
not to put you on the spot. You don't have to, it's not saying that your answer is going to be the albeit choice, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm usually a sucker for moving on.
Right. And I am too. Doug says I'm good. Let's guys and girls, give me a vote in there and everything. And always know this, if we continue on, if you can't stay the whole length, it's recorded, right? You can go back and watch it all. We're an hour and 52 minutes into this class, right? So I think we'll see where we can get for the next 30 minutes. And then we'll make a final decision then. Continue. Okay, so we got a few continues. All right, so let's go on and let's do that. So let's start off with our banners because they're both going to be the same height in this for the most part. Not really, but the same concept on the shape and everything. So I'll start with the break room here. Now, this is actually going to be an 8-ball. So it will be domed. It will be domed like an 8-ball. And the banner is not. The banner is going to be flat merging into it, right? So, and here we go. In our modeling tools, we're going to be creating shapes now. So we'll be mostly working in the create shape tools, no 2-rail sweeps or anything like that from here forward, should be. But I am going to mostly be using the curve profile in certain instances because I want rounded edges. I want a nice little round over. If you like sharp edges, like that chamfered look instead of a round over look, you use the angled profile. Okay, so if you want a rounded over look, curved profile. If you want a chamfered look, angular profile. If you want just flat, flat sides and top, then it's a flat shape, right? So we're going to do a curved profile. And this profile, remember now, this is all sitting on top of that slate piece, right? I don't want to build it up too high or anything, but I want it to look decent. So this, I'm going to, my rails and all, or my banners and all here, we're going to go probably no more than 3/16 of an inch But let's start out for right now at 1/8 of an inch. So my base height is going to be 0.125. Now that's just the straight meat, the base height. Now on top of that base height, there is a curved profile that's going to get created. And that curved profile is going to go a full 90. I want a full 90-degree round over. But I'm limiting it to a height to get that rounded over look. So if this number was 1/8 of an inch, that shape would come up 1/8 of an inch and then flatten out. It would round over and flatten out. If I am at a 1/16, it's just going to come up a 1/16 and round up. So it'll be a small little round over to 1/16 of an inch, limit to height. And it's going to have a base straight meat underneath it of about 1/8 of an inch. And it's going to be an add combine mode. And this is going to be my curved banner. And we're going to go ahead and click apply. And then I'll make sure that we'll split the view so you can see in just a second. And then I'll make sure I'm in the right level. We're going to be in this sign vector or sign component level. All the text is going to be built as one. All the billiards are going to be built as one, except for the little stripes and numbers and everything. So let's go ahead and split this view so we can see what's happening here, right? Let's kind of get zoomed in so you can kind of see what's getting created. So that's that 1/8 of an inch raise and everything. And let's go ahead and close this for just a second so I can make sure I'm in the right. I am. Sign components level. Perfect. So let's go back to that. All right. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the rack them up level, but now notice there's 2 vectors here. So on the 2 vectors, it's going to be round over flat and then another round over flat. It's going to have a nice little step up. So the first vector is going to be this one here, and it's going to have the same shape and height and everything as that ribbon there. Except I want to make this first one 0.08. 0.08. This will be my lower, we'll call it a banner, even though lower banner base. And we'll click apply. So this will create that base, and let's get that part built, and then I'll get into the view so everybody can see what's happening where I'm working at. All right, let's get into full view here on this split view. And the part I'm working on is this banner right here. Now we click on start a new component, right? I'm going to, it's updating the model. Okay. And now I'm going to select the inner vector, and it's going to be the same, except for I kind of want the overall height of this banner and that banner to be the same. So I'm going to take my 0.125 and I'm going to subtract my 0.08 to that, and this will be my lower banner riser. We'll call it riser. Now, same apply. Now it's technically going to be a little bit higher because my base is there'll be a little bit of height difference, but I want you to see that kind of that step up that we're creating here, right? So just that nice little detail. Now, if I put my mouse over this, we're at 0.875 here. And if I put my mouse here, we're 0.8125. So there is a difference in height. And that's fine. I want dimension to this and all. So it's what, 0.875, 0.8125, 0.875, 0.8125, a 16th of an inch. Yeah. Yep. 16th of an inch should be a difference. Okay. So now that's that. Like I said, we'll do our text here in just a moment. Start a new component. Always click on start a new component. Let's do our flourishes next. Get those done. Okay, so we're going to do this flourish. This one. That one. Make sure you get all the vectors selected. All right, now these are going to be just a straight curve profile. I don't think I'm going to flatten them off. I think they're going to be just kind of rounded. So we'll take a look at what they look like. It's just a straight curve profile, full. I'm not going to go 90. I'm going to go a little bit lower profile. Let's go 60 degree. The base height, I'm going to give it a base height of let's go 0.08. Now, I need to see how the flourishes interact with the rail here. It's going to wrap up because it's an ad. It's going to kind of wrap up and everything. If I don't like the way that looks, if I don't like that travel, then I'll end up merging those together and I'll move them to their own level and you'll see how we do that. Or I'll do just a slight tilt. Okay, let's see how we look. First of all, this is our flourishes, F-L-O-U-R-I-S-H, and click apply. Alan Lee, 30 minutes sounds good. Good. Okay, good. Perfect. All right, now it's important to see how they interact here, right? And so they break up just like that level does, right? And so that I don't want. I need a kind of a clean look, like, you know, it's going on top of that. So this is where I close this tool. I come up here and the components in this level, the level is adding to the levels below. So they're sitting on top of the slate and everything, and that's fine. So they can interact with one another here just fine. So I'm going to take the flourish, instead of an add mode, I'm going to change it to a merge, because it'll still sit on top of my slate here, but it will sink down. It will sink down and it'll hide. You'll see it disappear from this in just a second. Okay. Now I need to perform a slight tilt. Okay. And I need to do that on both, because if we look at the other side, you'll see that here as well too, right? So, and I don't want to tilt the, the whole thing. I just want to tilt, just a little area so we get a little bit of a rise and everything. So it kind of lays over, not too much and all that stuff. So I can do the tilt in the 2D view, and I can also do it in the 3D view, right? So I'll do it in the 3D view. And in order to do it in the 3D view, I need to select on the components, and there's going to be a blue box, little blue box right down here at the bottom. Let me get kind of turned up right here. So this blue box at the bottom, and if I click on that blue box, it'll open up the properties for that selected set of components, right? And so now here's the deal. I need this component on the left to tilt one way, and I need this component on the right to tilt another. So I can't have them all as one. So what I need to do is I actually need to close out of this, and I need to delete this flourish, and I need to build them independently, separately. So let's build this one first. Wait for it to. Okay, let's go in here and select that one. And in my shape tools, same settings for the shape. Nothing changes there. And it will be a merge instead of an add. And I'll just call this the left flourish. I wish, because I'm still in that very extremely high resolution, right? So it takes just a second to update the model. That's where a lot of our time is kind of wasted away, is waiting that pause for, while we wait. So this is the left flourish. And I can go ahead and click apply on that, and then let that one be done. All right, we're going to start a new component, and let's get the top flourish created. Okay, let's get our top flourish selected. And I believe that's all it is. Yep, that one, cool. Yep. All right, same settings. We'll just call it top flourish. And click apply. All right, let's get that up there. Nice. Okay, and then start a new component. We'll select this one, and I believe that's all the vectors for that. Same settings here. We'll call this our right flourish, and apply on that one. All right, now that those are separated, now we can go do our tilt and everything that we need to do, and they're independent because one's going to tilt this way, one's going to tilt that way. Okay, beautiful. So now we can go ahead and close this tool for just a moment. Okay. Now, I do not need to change the banner to a merge. It can be an add because it's below the flourish. The flourish is merging with the component that's below it, right? So that banner can stay in add mode, but the flourishes had to be merged. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start with our left flourish. Select that. Come over here. Let's get into full view so everybody can see what's happening here. I'm going to click on it again to open up the selection properties. Well, there we go. Click on that blue box, and I'm going to move the blue box up here. It's going to be a tilt. Now, when you tilt, it's like sticking a wedge under the model. And on a wedge, you have a thin part of the wedge and you have a thick part of the wedge. So when you go to set your tilt, you're going to have an anchor with a number 1 plus 1 next to it. And that's your first click. There's going to be 2, 1 and 2. Your first click represents where you want the thin part of the wedge to be. Your second click refers to where you want the thick part of the wedge to be, what part you need it lifted up, right? So I need my 1 to be out here somewhere in this, general direction. And after I click there, you'll see my anchor changes to number 2. And over here, I need my number 2 click. So I'm tilting in that direction. Now my tilt angle, I can come in and adjust or set that. And I can just start to tilt as I see that model. And now I'm going to actually close this tool, let it rebuild. Okay. Now what you're going to see is I tilted. Because I put the tilt like here, I created like a pivot point. It's like a teeter-totter. I tilted that down into the that part, and this was perfect, but this is not, right? So I need to make sure that my thin part of my wedge is out here past my model so that I'm tilting kind of it all, unfortunately, because definitely don't want that kind of a short tilt. So I'm going to undo the component change tilt. And okay, I'm going to do it again. Let's get into a top view and kind of so we're looking down here. All right, on my tilt, when I go to click, I need to be out here beyond the component. I was up in here and I created a pivot point. So it was literally like a teeter-totter. Okay, so I need to be out here for my thin part of my wedge beyond the model. And then here for the thick part of the wedge, right? And then when I come in and create that tilt, I'm just lifting, that. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to close this, and I want to tilt my whole board a little bit so I can see, because I don't want a whole lot of tilt, just enough to get that flourish above the top, but I don't want a lot of meat. I don't want to build it up too high, right? So if I close this tool for just a moment, I can turn my board here, and I can see that I've got just enough tilt, right? I'm not too high up. I think that's good. I'm going to leave that just like that and everything. So that was a good amount of tilt. Now, I'm not worried about these thin areas here right now, because then the next step, you're going to see what we're going to do here, and it's called a draft. We're going to build a little bit of a draft to angle these walls out slightly so that there's a little bit of meat there, so it's not so fragile. Because if you look at this flourish, it's quite thin and fragile here, right? I've just, kind of tilted and built this meat up and all. So I want to just widen out those bases, and that's called a draft. You'll see that next. But that's exactly what I wanted right there. It looks good. It looks just like it's going over there. So now let's do the one on the right, and then we'll do the draft for all three. So, and they'll all get done at the same time. So now we're going to come over and select our right side flourish. And let's get kind of up close here. Click on the properties for it. Now this time I got to be out here for the number one click, so I don't create that teeter-totter again. So tilt, set, that anchor with the number one is going to be out here. Okay. And then number two is going to be here. Now, I'm going to close this just for a minute so we can turn it sideways this time. Let's do that one more time. So the tilt's still set, but I haven't changed the angle, and I wanted to turn it to the side so you can kind of see what happens here. So I just want to go across there where I'm just slightly above that flourish. And again, I'm tilting, and it's tilting kind of the whole thing up, and everything. And that's okay. That's where, if I needed to do a fade or something like that, I could, do that and kind of bring it a little bit back down. But fade doesn't bring the base down. Fade brings the shape down, shape and base. So if we come and look at this full on and everything, we've got that, nice look that it looks like it's kind of, right over that corner. Okay, now we need to add a draft to this. Now, if I draft each individual part one at a time, then I can work with them individually. I'm not screwing up my originals, right? If I draft them all together, it's going to create one new model with the draft, the angled edges and everything. Again, a big fan of keeping things, separated and all. So while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead, and here's the easy way to do this. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go down to show only this. Because a draft is created on the visible model, not the selected component. It's created on the visible model. So I only want this particular to be seen, right? I only want this particular one to be seen. Now, I'm going to, before I draft this, I'm going to see if a fade will bring me down a little bit, and then I'll do a draft. So I'm going to open up the properties. I'm going to click on the fade, and with a fade, you click on where you want to keep for your number one click, your first click. You click on what you want to fade down on your second click. So in this general area, that's going to be my first click. And then in this general area, it's going to be my second click. I'm going to actually go out here a little bit because I want the fade to kind of go beyond that. Now it's going to do a 50% fade right now when it resets. So it's going to drop down. And if I change that fade, I could, that's 100%. And all it's doing, you see how all it's doing is it's fading the shape, not the base. It's not changing the base at all for me. So I don't want to fade on that. I want it to, I'll just deal with that when the time comes. All right. And if I need that to be, slightly lower, I could merge it with I could probably try to merge it with what's underneath it, but I'm going to leave it just like it is. So we're not going to do any fade on that, but I am going to do, it's the visible model. I'm going to do a draft. So on the draft, I'm going to do just a 15-degree draft. And let's get up close so you can see what's going to happen here. On my edges, they're just going to flare out. And 30-degree draft, pretty decent. 22.5 is a decent draft. 15 is good. 10. I don't want too much of a draft, but just a small draft angle out. So those sides are going to kind of just flare out ever so slightly. If I need more, then I'll just increase that percentage. But I don't want to go out too far. I don't want to just blow them out completely. So right now what's happening is it's building a new component, a brand new model, with an angled draft on all that straight meat underneath. It's going to just kind of flare out. And a draft typically, if you were doing concrete, your forms and everything and all would have a draft on them. So the concrete, the forms can break away from better. Where you see draft mostly is injection molding. So those parts, that plastic, melted plastic, gets, injected into those molds. Well, those parts have to be able to come out of the mold. So the molds will have a draft angle on them so the parts pop out easier. And so what you can see is that draft has occurred. Not only did it occur, but it kind of, smoothed out the part a little bit, but it just created just a little bit of a flare out here. Let's look over here. So a little bit of a flare just to give it some stabilization. It's just like a little foundation, right? So we're going to go ahead and click on close on that. That's going to be satisfactory for me for that one. And now you'll see it says model with 15-degree draft. And that is this new part. So the right flourish can get turned off. And I could move that right flourish down to level 3 because it's kind of the master part at this point. But I'll just keep it unchecked, turned off and unchecked. All right, so now let's turn that off and let's turn on the top flourish. You only build a draft on the visible model. So I got 3 drafts to build, then we can move on. We're at 2 hours and 22 minutes, so just a few more minutes here. All right, so once again, got it selected. Top flourish is selected. It is checked. It is the only visible model. And this draft says create a component from a visible model with the draft added. That's what we're doing. I'm going to click apply on that 15 degrees. Should be pretty straightforward to build that part pretty quick. There we go. And close. We can go ahead and uncheck that. Uncheck that. And of course, I can go back and rename those parts. This one is going to be the key one here. Come over here. Because of the thin area right there, you'll be able to see that very well, what that draft does. So once again, got it selected, got it visible. Add that 15-degree draft. This would be typically, it would tend to be a prone to, chip out or break out, especially in, softer woods or something like that. Or, and so the draft actually helps not only stabilize it, but it just gives it a little bit of base meat. And you can add as much draft angle as you want. All I'm doing is just giving it some foundation. Right. So that gives it some stabilization, and I'm happy with that. 15 degrees is typically it's kind of my go-to for all my text and stuff. 15-degree draft is what I use. And speaking of text, now we can turn on all three of our components. And remember now, let's turn on the rest of our components here. Nice, nice, nice. Now, because it created a new model based on, you know, the existing model with that draft, it still keeps that tilt. It's a brand new model. It's got the tilts kind of included with it and everything. All right, so let's go ahead and we're here. Let's turn our pool table back on and our pool table components. And most importantly, our base. Now, of course, I could have gone through and checked right at the top, right-clicked and said show all, and then turned off what I didn't want on. But it's just easier to check because everything's on at this point except for those three that are now turned off. And those, again, they could go down into level 1 or level 3. I haven't decided yet. But there's our banner so far and stuff. Now, if this flourish right here takes away when we get our text and stuff in there, if that 15-degree draft, because it is, you know, quite heavy there and everything, because of the, you know, the height, there's a lot of height right there just in that. I'll probably end up sinking that down. I'll probably end up doing a merge and everything. If worse comes to worse, where that's too beefy right there, then I will actually cut it. I will cut the vector and I'll close this vector off so this area is separate. And I will create two separate parts and I'll just merge them back together with one another so it looks like one, but it would be two separate parts so I don't have that big tilt over here. If it's going to be a problem, which I foresee it is, I'll probably end up having to do that, but let's not waste time on that right now. Let's get let's get this thing rocking and rolling here. Let's get the 8-ball made, and then we'll get the text. We'll do the text last here for now. All right, so here we go. So the 8-ball is a full-on dome. So it is going to be a curved profile, 90 degrees. And if I want to limit the height, you know, based on its diameter, its height's going to be based on its diameter, right? So if it's too height, I can limit it to a certain height, not limit flat, but limit just, I can actually shrink it down. All right, let's go ahead and no limit right now. And this will be our 8-ball. Click apply. So once we do the text here, we'll save it one last time, and then we can end up, I mean, that's, you know, pretty much, you know, kind of the gist of it, but I want to show you the billiards and all that stuff, but the 8-ball needs to be a merge because there is a banner merging into it. So it needs to be a merge. But this basically, you kind of see what we're doing here and everything. Now I will complete this, of course, and we'll probably complete it in the class, but I will update the files in Drive. So get that link and everything. So now what you can see is, you know, that 8-ball is a big old dome, right? At this point, I want no base height here. So 0 base height. I want the dome coming right out of the surface there. And I want to scale it. I want to scale it to an exact height. So my banner is only an 1/8 inch tall, right? So I'm going to go a quarter. So I'm going to scale it. It's going to be a full 90-degree dome, but I'm going to scale it to an exact height of a quarter. Might even go 3/8 to give it more of a rounded look, but let's try that. I just remember now, every bit of height that we build up in this, it's all coming out of our 1.5-inch board, right? So when everything is all said and done, I'm sure that there's going to be a point where I have to go back and adjust heights and properties and everything. Now you can see here the base height, 1/4 inch isn't cutting it, right? So let's double that, a 1/2 inch. Not a base height, but the scale to height. I want that round look because we're looking at it from the front, not the side, right? But I want that round look so it looks like, like it's a ball, right? And it looks like a ball now, but it's just looking like more of a pancake. So let it build this up. It is 10 p.m. So we'll finish off the 8-ball and then there we go. Now, if we look at it from the front, you can see there, we have that round look and everything. If you wanted to go a little bit higher, you could, as long as you don't exceed, your height here, right? So just, stay within that. If I was looking at it through the end, the 8-ball is already scaled that by 1/8 inch. It's 1/8 inch taller than this. So we got to just keep that in mind. So that's good. So we're going to start a new component. The next vector is going to be the little circle, and then we're going to do all the text all at once. So the text is going to be our last one, and that's it. So come on. This is the end. All right, so the next vector is going to be really quickly the circle. Now it's just this is going to be a flat shape, okay? And we're not going to recess it in. I'm going to actually build it up a little bit. So it's literally going to be a flat shape, and I want just a little bit of height, just so you know it's there. So I'm going to go a 30-second 03125.03125. Click apply. And the text is sitting on top of everything that it's sitting on top of. So it's going to be an ad. All of it's going to be an ad. So we'll just do all the text at once. So really quickly, that's going to be an ad. I changed wrong combine mode. Click apply. Now the text, I want my top of my text to be flat, but I want all my edges to be nicely rounded over. You could do chamfered, like I said, angular profile versus curved profile and everything, but I want all of my text to have a nice round over to it, flat, 3/16 of an inch base to it. So now if we look, that little 30-second, all that does is just give it kind of that little bump out. You could probably do no base height, give it, a slight curved profile, or something and all. But when I do my smoothing, when all the smoothing is done, that edge is going to disappear, right? So that 30-second is fine. And then start a new component. And now we're going to do all the text. So let's back out. I'm not going to do the text on the billiards balls. Those are going to be separate over there, but I'm going to do the 8 and then the break room, Jonathan, Ocala, Florida. All that'll be done at once. Okay, so let's go ahead and select the 8. Break room. Go Jonathan's. Billiards. Rack them up. Okay, so that's all the text. Now, right here, my little flare out is going to go into my letters and everything. I'll have to deal with that. Again, like I said, I'll probably end up cutting that so it brings it down and all, but we'll deal with that another time. Let's make sure that on our vectors, all of our vectors are selected properly and everything. Let's get right kind of up front. Here so we can see things. Okay. I just learned a new keyboard shortcut. If you click on that right there and hold your shift key down, it'll show you the back of the board instead of the front. All right. So the for the text, it's going to be a curved profile, 90-degree curve. I want a 3/16 base height, 0.1875. I want to limit to its height, and I want to limit it to a 1/16 of an inch. Let's kind of get up close here and turn this just a little bit. This is going to be an ad, and this is going to be my text. So we're going to go ahead and click apply. And let it build that part. All right. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll save this. This is going to be our end. We're going to say goodbye after this. JR, stand by. I'm going to bring you on to say goodbye. But we're going to continue this because we might continue finishing this up. But we'll also, at the same time, we'll also talk about V carving this sign and stuff like that. Now, I want you to notice something here. This is a bit of an anomaly here. You see this right here where the middle of the O's and everything, the model created it and all that. Now, I'm not sure why that is. It did that to me the other night. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit reset here. And on the text, watch this little hoop I got to jump through. Give me just a second here. So reset is going to blank out my creation there. It's updating the model. I'm going to go, what I'm going to do, let me give you the heads up. I'm going to go into the vector validator. I'm going to have it search those vectors, make sure there's no issues or errors. And then, because I had them all selected at one time, I think that had a little bit something to do with it. I don't know why. But first of all, I'm going to close out of this tool, and I'm going to go to the vector validator. And I'm going to search the selected, and I'm going to click on V carving mode just because, you know, it will, you know, search everything a little bit more thoroughly. And I've got, in this particular instance, I've got one overlap and 3 intersections, and it's all right here, right? That's a problem, right? So no big deal. I can come over here on the rack 'em up, let me just select the R. I'm just going to bump that over there. All right. Now, if I select just rack them up here, and I go into that create shape tool, curve shape, 90-degree profile, 3/16, same thing, nothing's nothing. We'll call this text 1, apply. It will create my letters. Should, it did last night, it'll create them right. But if I select them all at once, I don't know why it misses those inside of those letters. It's strange. I don't know if it's a glitch or if there's something that that I'm missing, but it will create them properly. It's weird. Anyway, okay, so that's okay. Text 1, start a new component. No problem. Now, I'm going to push my luck here. I'm going to try to do break room, 8, and billiards at the same time. Let's see if that... And the thing I hate, every time I click on start a new component, it has to update the model before it starts a new component. And again, it's probably the processing power of my computer. All right, let's go ahead and select the billiards. I am going to do the number 8. I am going to do Jonathan's. And I am going to do break room. Now, I did a vector validator on all them, and there were no issues with them. So, but there was an issue with that rack room. So I'm hoping that if I have rack rooms separated from those, then the issue won't present itself. I'm hoping, in my logical thinking, that the reason why the issue was created or why it happened is because there was in one vector of my selection, there was that overlap or intersections and all, and it threw something off in the matrix. I don't know, right? You know, but this will tell me right now, because there's no issues with any of these vectors that I currently have selected. And there we go. So it creates it properly. So that one issue throws me off. Now I want my text and everything to be just like that, except for the number 8. I don't want it that high. So what I am going to do is I'm going to quickly just deselect the number 8 from the selection there. And I'm going to just apply that again without the number 8, because I want the 8 to be just, it doesn't need to be a 3/16 on top of that 8 ball. It just needs to be, you know, come right out. And on my round over, last thing I'm going to change. Let me see if I'm going to. Yeah, I'm happy with it. That's fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this. Now, here's the I keep saying this is the end. This is the end. I want to do the draft on these text. So my text objects, I'm going to let it update this model. I'm going to create the last draft, and that's it. We'll say goodbye. Let me bring JR up in just a second. JR, stay with me. This, we're going to right click and go show only this. And then we're going to select the other text 1 and text 2, make sure they're both going to be active. So everything here is going to be active here. And rack room. Nope. Rack room is text 1. Hold on a second. And all of the text is going to get the 15-degree draft. Like get rack room in there. And Ocala, Florida, I'll do that one later another time and all. But very simply, we're going to go draft, apply. And I absolutely encourage you always put a draft on your letters and all. It just makes them look better. And also when the router bit's cutting, the draft helps. So the bit can just, travel up at a nice angle and then across, as that 3D cut. If it has to go up against that straight wall and it stops, raises up, goes over, goes down and stops because it's a straight wall there, then that slow down and stop, that increases runtime. Even the little bit of a draft, is kind of a ramp coming up and down and everything. So it'll help speed up your runtime a little bit. So we're just adding a bit of that draft there. Done. Turn that off and turn off text 1 and 2. Because we have a new model with that new draft there. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and let's get into the 3D view. Let's turn on our pool table accents, our pool table components. Now I'm going to select the 8-ball over here in the list. I'm going to hold down the shift key and I'm going to select the this fourth one down. And then I'm going to hold down my control key and I'm going to select on curved banner, lower banner riser. And then I'm going to put a check mark in one of them and it'll check them all that's selected. Just to turn them on faster. And then my level 1 base is next. All right. And so the last thing I have to do, wait for it, is when it creates a model with a draft, by default, it changes the combine mode to merge. That's why you see rack room is missing and all. We simply just need to select, right click on it and change that combine mode back to add, and it will switch everything back. All right, so come on now. All right, let's turn this around. It's that updating the model that takes so down. Wonderful. All right, let's get that switched over. Let's click off of it. And, this is what we're looking at so far. Again, we're going to probably go in our next class, or, not next class, but, when we come back to this, we'll probably split this in half so that this component can be lowered. And then we'll merge it together where it blends in here. So you can't even tell that it was cut in half into 2 separate parts. But that's just too distracting, that big old flourish, big old bulky thing right there. So we'll probably end up redoing that. But this is where we're at right now. And ran longer than I wanted to. Let me get JR back up here on the screen with us. JR, here we come. So the are the steps on the Rackham detail, radius, or straight. It seemed to have, you seem to miss that. The Rackham, are you talking about the banner underneath Rackham or the text itself?
The banner.
The banner has a radius. So it's got a, the bottom banner was 0.08 inches on the base height with that 90-degree profile cut off at a 32nd or 16th, 16th. And then the top part was another 0.04 base height with that same round over and everything. So,
and that came in when you, with the add mode? Or the,
yes, add.
That's
add.
right.
So, down here on the left, that lower banner riser and lower banner base, those are both add modes, one on top of the other. We're adding one on top of the other, setting that up and everything. So if 3/16, if you didn't like the height of 3/16 or any of that, on your text, you can lower it down, right? It doesn't have to have that base height of 3/16. It can be lower. But for the most part, this is where we're at. We still got our billiard to do, our pool stick, and a few other things, but not bad, huh? Not bad for the most part. And one of the things that let me bring myself up here into full view. Next week, we're going to break this up just a little bit, and I'll make this file complete. I'll update it and save it to the Dropbox and everything as it is right now. And then we'll, that way you can continue on with us when we do this class again. But we'll have a follow-up to this to complete it. Because I do want to create the toolpath, that little texture toolpath on the edges so you can see that too. Then I also want to talk about, and what's left, there's only, maybe an hour at the most. And then we can talk about V-carve and all that stuff as well too. But what do you think, JR? Not bad looking so far, huh? Right?
No, I think that's great.
Yeah. The big banner. So we got that big flourish and all is a big eyesore, but it's an easy fix, and I'll look forward to talking to you guys about how to fix that and everything. And notice because it wedged up so high, that 15-degree draft, really brought out that base, and that's why it's running into, the move my head out of the way. Hold on, where's my head? Hold on. There we go. Where it's running into the text and everything. Where's it at? Right there, where it's running into the text. So we want to kind of avoid that. But ladies and gentlemen, I think this is where we're going to say our goodbyes. I do want to do this really quickly here. Like I do with, every chance I get is these are you all. Right. And this is everyone that is contributing, that are Spindle TV subscribers, whether you're silver or gold members. Your support is greatly appreciated by me. And I couldn't do what I do without you. So thank you for that. Greatly appreciate it. And I look forward to, continued service for you. And so thank you very much. JR, thanks for hanging out with me, even though you're hanging out in the background. I'll have this, one of these days, I'll have a system where you can stay up with me and all that stuff. But hopefully you were able to get something beneficial out of this. And this is going to be one of my favorite signs that I've ever made when it's all said and done.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I love all the details to it. And I think as a piece of wall art, hanging up, 38 inches by 20 and 5/16, it's a good size piece, I think it's going to look really, really sharp. As far as run times and stuff like that, don't know yet until we create the tool paths. And that's what I'm really looking forward to, is walking through and creating the tool paths and stuff. So, you can see, how those are going to be made and everything. So, Well, everyone, sorry that I haven't been around the last couple weeks. It looks like the stream went well with no, I don't know if I buffered. Nobody said anything. So knock on wood, I think it went well. And next week, we're going to do a rotary. We're going to talk rotary. It's going to be a very simple class, very short and simple class. And then the following week, we will come back and we'll wrap this up. We'll wrap this up. We'll talk about VCarve on this sign. If you don't have, where you can't build models, I will provide the models to you. It will not have Jonathan's name in it. The model will not have Jonathan's name in it or Ocala, Florida. It'll be everything else. And as far as the texts, this is a private class. This is one of the benefits. If you didn't want to V-carve a name in or a state in, you wanted it raised up a 3D model, we have that share file and everything and stuff like that, where you could actually reach out to me as a Spindle TV exclusive member. Say, hey, could you put this name and this date, with that model for my copy of the model or this and that? And I can do that. And you can have your own customized model with that name change and stuff. So, if you wanted to, or you could leave it blank, right? So break room, billiards, rack them up, all that good stuff. All right, everybody. Until next time, I will see you next Wednesday, 7:30, same time, same channel. Y'all have a good night. JR, you have a great night. Hang out with me for a second, and here we go.